Ahead tonight, police on the scene of a gruesome collision. We've got the latest.
One business is looking for ways to curb copper theft.
And local law enforcement hit the court to defend the Bahamas. The National Report starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This segment of the news is brought to you by BTC, powered by Lime.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Opal Rose, sitting in for Keishla Adderley.
And I'm Kindino Knowles. As always, it's good to have you with us.
Well, a big smash up on the streets of the capital, leaving one man dead and pushing the fatality count to 20 for the year.
Now, we're told that a man is dead and it took authorities hours to pull him from the wreck. Janae Ferguson has our top story tonight.
A Caucasian male is dead tonight after the silver Malibu rental he was driving shortly after noon on Tuesday on the Coral Harbor Road crashed head-on with a Mack truck. When we arrived at the scene, the body of the man who was the lone occupant of the vehicle was still trapped inside, and the car was lodged under the truck. Officer in charge of the Mobile Division, Superintendent Ken Strawn, says a crane would have to be used to extract the remains from the mangled wreck.
This situation, no doubt, is an horrific one in nature, and this brings to total some 20 incidents of traffic-related deaths on the streets of the Bahamas thus far for this year. We are in the early days of the Road Safety Week, and we cannot overemphasize the need for persons to exercise due caution and care while they use the streets of the Bahamas.
Strawn could not say if weather conditions, however, played a major factor in the tragedy.
Our experts from the various agencies are on scene, and we are looking over the scene to be able to form a better understanding as to what really caused this incident.
Now, the driver of the Mack truck and his passenger walked away unharmed. Meanwhile, the identity of the victim is unknown at this time. Janae Ferguson, ZNS Network News.
And from the courts, the highly anticipated coroner's inquest into the death of Aaron Roll hitting a snag this morning.
The inquiry was scheduled to begin at 10 o'clock, but it was pushed to the afternoon because of insufficient jurors. Jimmy DeSwain tells us that 3 witnesses took the stand today.
Arresting Officer Reserve Corporal Kent Greenslade was the last of 3 witnesses to testify in the coroner's inquest Tuesday afternoon. 20-year-old Aaron Roll died at Southern Police Station on February 9th. He was reportedly picked up in good health from his Ross Corner home on February 6th. A pathologist report indicated that he died from a ruptured intestine and internal bleeding caused by blunt force trauma to the torso. Officer Roll told the court that on February 7th, he was on duty when he, along with 2 officers, received information about wanted suspect Aaron Roll that led them to a home at number 20 Ross Corner. He said he went to a westerly section of the home where he found Roll asleep in grass. And Greenslade said he awoke Roll and told him he was being arrested for escaping lawful custody. He said Roll got up slowly and appeared sluggish and painful. He said he had difficulty extending one of his hands when he wanted to handcuff him. Roll was transported to Southern Police Station, where he said Inspector Hume said a foul odor was coming from the suspect. The officer asked if he was deteriorating. Greenslade said at the time of his arrest, Roll's father and sister were present at the door. He said the suspect did not make any complaints at the time. Under cross-examination by attorney Christina Galanos, who represents the Roll estate, he denied a suggestion that only the sister was present during the arrest and not the father. He said the deceased did not volunteer that anything was wrong with him. He admitted no attempt was made to figure out what was wrong with Roll either. When asked if Roll had trouble extending his right hand during arrest, why he did not handcuff him to the front, he told the court that it was not policy in light of the charges Roll faced. Greenslade was also cross-examined by Wellington Olander, who represents the interests of police officers Carl and Akil Smith. He told the court that he had known Roll for about 4 years, and he says at the time of the arrest, the Aaron Roll he knew would have tried to elude police or been in a more sprightly state. He says there was no aggression. He said Rule told him that his hand was hurting just before the arrest. Now, Godfrey Nathaniel Rule, the father of the deceased, also testified. He told the court that at the time of his son's arrest, he was not living with him. The last time he saw him was October 2012. Rule testified to identifying his son's body at the morgue. He denied being present during his son's arrest. His testimony was interrupted for about a half an hour after the smoke detector sounded. When he resumed, he told the court that his son was on the run from police. Testimony resumes at 2 p.m. tomorrow. Acting Coroner Janine Weish Gomez presides over the case. Marshalling the evidence is Ambrose Ambrister, assisted by Linnell Williams.
Thanks, Jimanita. Well, also from the courts today, testimony continued in a high-profile murder trial.
A police witness testified that the accused removed 2 alleged weapons from the graphic murder scene. Fern Carey is following the case for us.
Scenes of crime investigator Detective Corporal Jermaine Stubbs testified during court proceedings Tuesday that he removed 2 blood-stained cutlasses, one from a bedroom and the other from a bathroom, in the South Beach apartment where Nellie Mae Brown Cox's lifeless body was discovered back on April 7th of 2011. The officer testified that one of the cutlasses had the words "You're next, George Sawyer" inscribed on one side and the words "This is what cheaters get" on the other side, while the other cutlass had "Cheaters and Liars" inscribed on it. The detective indicated there was a gold pillow covering Brown Cox's half-naked blood-stained body. He stated that she had severe wounds about the body and face and that some of her fingers had been severed, which he later discovered beneath a clothes basket in the bathroom. Another police witness also testified that Brown Cox's right hand had been severed and her left arm partially severed. Meantime, a close friend of Prince Hepburn, Anya James, told jurors that Hepburn confessed to her over the phone that he had killed Brown Cox because she broke his heart and cheated on him. James told the court that she and her husband developed a friendship with Hepburn as he was building their family home. As a result, she said she and her husband sometimes traveled with the couple to the United States to buy material for their new houses, as Hepburn was also building a home for Brown Cox in Kalani Lakes. She described Hepburn as a humble, cheerful person who had introduced Brown Cox as his expected. James also testified that Brown Cox was a worldly woman who could get Hepburn to do anything for her. The trial continues Wednesday before Justice Indra Charles. Muyo DeSeal heads the defense team. Fern Carey, ZNS Network News.
Still on court news, a judge has ordered a retrial in the Cleophas Clark murder case. He's accused of killing a Chinese national last year. Yesterday afternoon, jurors returned a 7-5 verdict, and in order to convict someone of murder, they all must agree that the defendant is guilty. Meantime, Clark remains on remand at Her Majesty's prison until his second trial. While investigations continue into that shooting last night where a male victim was killed, police were called to Honeycomb Street after 9 last night, where they found the victim with multiple gunshot wounds about the body. We're told that he was riding a bicycle in the area when 2 culprits approached him, and one of them opened fire. Now, hours earlier, authorities were called just a few yards away on Taylor Street, where another young man was shot. He's still hospitalized in serious condition. Police have not said whether the matters were connected.
A high-speed chase last week ended with a man behind bars and police with nearly $10,000 worth of stolen goods. Expensive watches, iPads, mini computers and televisions are among the items that were recovered by authorities. Officer in charge of the Eastern District, Superintendent Elaine Sands, says officers pursuing a suspect who they wanted to question about a number of home invasions in the area. That case started in the east, or that chase, that is, started in the east and ended in a crash off Kemp Road. The prime suspect was taken into custody and a female accomplice is also being questioned. Meantime, police say another suspect is still at large.
Break-ins is a concern in this area. It's not quite as high as it was last year, but we're really trying to keep it down to a minimum. We don't want it to go any higher. The majority of our house break-ins, we notice, it's during the day. Normally while persons are out during the day, and so we want to encourage members of the public who reside in this area to install security measures in their homes.
In our first look at weather, a broad area of cloudiness extends from Grand Bahama in the north all the way down to Cat Island and the Exuma Keys to the south. But outside of our studios just now, we have mostly cloudy skies, temperature 76 degrees, a relative humidity 74%, winds out of the west-northwest at 5 knots, barometric pressure 1,013.6 millibars, that's 29.93 inches, and it is falling. But stay tuned, temperatures around the Farming Islands, boating and travel forecast is still to come.
Well, coming up, former sports ministers make a visit. We'll tell you where.
And law enforcers take to the basketball court to defend the Bahamas. We've got the highlights from the games coming up in ZNS Total Sports. You're watching the Bahamas Tonight in HD.
This portion of the news is brought to you by Sun Oil Limited, fueling growth for people.